Over. Start over. No. So we just started the recording. This is the first meeting, the first September meeting of the Be Sure Book Club, and we have Mark Moskowitz and Amy Donaldson also on the line. And this month, we started reading the first half of "Someday Is Not a Day in the Week" by Sam Horn, which was a recommendation by Mark Moskowitz himself. And I neglected to start the record button when we started talking, but we just heard Mark give us a brief rundown of why he what made him choose it. Basically, he's a library goer, likes to utilize the free public library in his town, which is awesome, and is always looking for a good hack, is always looking to improve himself, is always looking to be better and follow his passions and his dreams. And this book spoke to him, so we just began our conversation, and we're gonna continue it now. So was there anything in the first half of the book? I know you probably finished the whole thing by now, right?
No. I've had a lot of things going on. I've been really busy. I'm just trying to kind of stay with where we are. For me, again, a lot of these are great principles that, just opening up the first one, evaluating your happiness, living consciously is so important. A lot of times life just day after day just kind of slips away, so just evaluating your own, it doesn't even just be happiness, just your own, the most important things in your life, take stock of them. Like, how is your relationship with your significant other? How is your relationship with yourself? How is your relationship with your career, with your boss, with, just being conscious of these things, I think can make such an important difference in your life. And I just think we take so much as habit, and if we just get into a bad habit, then it just keeps spiraling out of the, spiraling down. And if we get into good habits, hopefully it spirals up. So I think evaluating your happiness, evaluating your whole life, and of course, appreciation for life, and not being afraid to think outside of social norms, stir the pot a little bit is always fun.
It's interesting. You mentioned the word habits, since we just finished Atomic Habits last month. So, it's interesting, there's really no rhyme or reason to the books that we're choosing. We're just picking what we like, but, we're starting to develop a theme, right? So, what did we do the month before that? Hook point, right? So that was, we talked about marketing and, what's your hook? And then we talked about, okay, well, if you know what your hook is in business, well, now how are you going to get there? We talked about, establishing habits and how little things can make little changes can make a big difference. And now we're talking about, further in that with this book. I love the fact that every couple of, on most pages, I'm thumbing through it now, on most pages, the author has a quote from, someone famous. And it's, on page 16 and 17, I just started flipping from the beginning. On page 16, there's a quote from Thomas Edison, and on the adjoining page, there's a quote from Ferris Bueller, which, so, there's a pretty big dichotomy between Thomas Edison and Ferris Bueller, but it's interesting. And I know, Mark, we talk about this all the time lately for you. I mean, you're the epitome of following your dream now, right? I mean, you took a big leap of faith recently, and you've I think realized what your calling is, and just like I did last year starting my business. But how is that going for you so far?
It's amazing. It's being an entrepreneur is brutally difficult, but it's also very, very rewarding. And it's in that difficulty that you find the rewards. And, I feel like I have spent so much of my life chasing money, chasing the wrong things. And that to start to chase the things that mean the most to me, that I've learned that mean the most to me, which is, I like to help people. I've always kind of been a helper in a way. And I've had that very curious mentality about how the world does work and how the brain works and how things like that. So I think being able to dig into that, and, it's hard to take the leap, but it's hard for me to do something halfway. So like, as I was working at the digital marketing agency, it's hard for me to not give them 10, 11 hours a day, because that's just what you have to do to be successful. So how do you come home after that and then start your second career? It just wasn't working for me. So I really felt this calling. I did not feel like I felt unhappy on the inside that I wasn't following my calling, and I know I needed to do it. I know I needed to take the leap, and it's still at the beginning stages, but I love it every day. I'm consistently writing on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and actually Facebook, not so much. I've yet to really jump into the Facebook world. But I'm working on making that leap, and I've built a website, and I'm building out the courses and everything that I need to do, and I'm just very excited. And my path has not been the smoothest of paths, but I guess the best ones never really are. So
interesting that you said chasing them. You had to stop chasing the money, right? I mean, I'm thinking about my own life, and I'll fill in. I know you and Amy have been talking a lot. I've only seen Amy twice a month on these book club calls, but did you share with Amy the introduction I made for you recently?
Yeah. Oh no, not yet. No,
Not
we
yet.
haven't talked since then. Go ahead.
So Amy, I'm a member of a local chamber of commerce, which has been great. I mean, I've only been a member a short time, and in that the president of the chamber, so I'll give them a little plug, the North Jersey Chamber of Commerce. So I know there's lots in the area, but the one I belong to and highly recommend is the North Jersey Chamber of Commerce in Fairfield, New Jersey. Michelle Vernuccio is the president. She's dynamic, she's engaging, she's amazing, and she's also a professor. She teaches a couple classes at a local university, Montclair State University, and one of her colleagues at the university reached out to her. This person, they teach like a health and wellness class, but it also with a heavy focus on professional development. So this woman reached out to Michelle and invited her to be a guest speaker, for topics like resume writing and networking and things like that, just all sorts of professional development categories. And Michelle was unavailable, but made an introduction to me, and I had a nice conversation with this person, and she invited me to come to her class, and she heard all about Be Sure and what I do to help people like Mark and Kim and professionals and business owners with their networking and business growth. And I assumed she wanted me to come and talk about networking, but she actually, after hearing my story, she wanted me to come and just talk about how I got to where I am today. How did I become an entrepreneur? How did I take that leap of faith to risk everything and work for myself? And we ended the conversation having scheduled a visit for me to be a guest speaker in her class. And I asked her if she needed additional speakers, and she was interested in what I was talking about. So I told her Mark's story, and she loved it. So hooked Mark up with her as well, and he's going to be guest speaking in her class as well, which is great.
Yeah, very exciting. I appreciate that, Dave. That's awesome.
No, super cool. But
That's really exciting.
Yeah, it's very, very. I mean, Amy, 5 years ago, if you told me I'm going to be guest speaking at a college class, I mean, I would have thought you were crazy. I mean, even now that I'm saying it, it doesn't even seem real to me. Like, who wants to hear me talk about my story? Like, I just feel like it's so, I feel it lacks excitement, but it's not every day that I guess somebody takes the leap of faith. I mean, incidentally, you have the most experience out of all of us as a business owner. I mean, what made you decide to do what you're doing today?
I don't think I ever really considered another path other than entrepreneurship. For me, it was just something, and I don't know if it's just because I was a stubborn kid that didn't like being told what to do, or I remember whenever I would get like a bad grade, and my mom was always like, you got to do well in school because it's your ticket to the future. I always, like, my line that I would always tell her is like, oh, you only need a degree to go work for someone else. You know, just like my way that I would, which is fun. I mean, I actually got pretty good grades. I, got mostly B's and a couple A's. But if I ever like skipped school, or that was my line, or if I flunked a test, I was like, oh, you only need that to work for someone else. That's not, I only did as well as I did in school because I love learning, but I don't want those people telling me what to do, or, if I can do well on the test, but I didn't turn in any of the homework, then now I have a B in the class. Who cares? I literally cared not. And that was always my line. And I guess it became like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
One of my colleagues, Jason Street, who's in one of my groups, we've known each other now for years and we're good friends. We've had conversations before, and he said the A students work for the B and C student.
Well, and my grandmother always would try to tell me, well, you need to be well educated so you can be well rounded, and if you want to marry a millionaire, you're gonna have to be going to all. And I would always look at her and be like, I don't want to marry a millionaire. I want to be a millionaire, right. Like my own. I was like, I don't. Yeah, so that was always my,
and I, growing up, I was the A student, and I know looking back, I was very, I don't know if it's left brain or right brain. Is it left brain where you're like, type A? Like I was math and science, right? I was, everything needed to have a reason, right? So I felt like I lacked creativity, and only when I entered, a sales job where I realized I liked talking to people and I had a little bit more, creative independence. That's when I really started feeling my own, and that was my calling. And it's funny, my daughter, who is a sophomore in high school, and she's at the top of her class with a 98 average, scholar program, the whole nine. College is on our radar because she's a sophomore, and I tell my wife, like, if she told me tomorrow that she wanted to skip college and go into a sales career, I would support that. Like, I don't feel she would need that. I mean, because I know I'm a college dropout. I went to a great school and paid a ton of money, and I went there for 3 years and I dropped out because I just wanted to go to work. I never wanted to be in class learning things that I felt were irrelevant to my future life. So all I wanted to do was make money and earn and work. And that was my passion. But yeah, I mean,
people that get these liberal arts degrees or whatever, it's like, especially now, I mean, when we were going to school, it was expensive, but it was so much more affordable than it is now. I mean, now it's like, unless you're getting a professional degree, like if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer,
you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a nurse, you have a set career that you want, a path you want to follow. That's one thing. But yeah, I went into college saying, I just knew I wanted to be in business, and I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know if it was finance or marketing or management. Nobody ever really explained that to me. So I was flying by the seat of my pants. And when I started taking, accounting classes freshman year that were teaching me, how a tree turned into a house, I'm like, that's stupid. Like, I don't even care about, like, if I had a manufacturing job, that's one thing. But I always knew that my calling was to be in business as an entrepreneur some way. And I just didn't know what that was going to be.
Yeah.
What, going back to the book for a second, I think, if we still have time and we have nothing else to do and we wanted to do something fun, I thought that on page 13, I think Mark referenced it before, the happiness quiz. I thought this would be fun to do since it's only 4 minutes. I thought, in the book, she writes about how that really sparks a good conversation. So I thought that was interesting. But we gave Mark a chance. Amy, anything jumping out from you in the book that you found, interesting or, or relevant to your job or your career?
Yeah, well, so the big thing for me that was such a surprise, I was expecting it to be on, like, I thought it was a time management book about like not procrastinating, because some day is not a day in the week, right? I thought with seize the day kind of thing. So that was a nice little treat that it's actually about happiness and using your time for things that create joy. yeah, that was a nice surprise. And yeah, I didn't do any of the quizzes, but I really, I liked like, I love all the questions
Yep.
that she asked.
Yeah, I think it's just, there's a lot of good stuff in this book. I think that, one thing which I sometimes struggle with, to be authentic, and something that might hold me back sometimes, is I do have a bit of this perfectionist syndrome where I want everything to be perfect before I launch it or before I put it out there. And, the early in the book was this chapter on urgency and creating an urgency. It's funny because I actually wrote about that on LinkedIn recently, about, even before I read it, like about, stop with the perfection mentality, throw it out there, learn from your mistakes. Nothing's ever going to be perfect the first few times you do it, so like all of a sudden within like 72 hours, I had a website built. I had, I was starting to write, I was starting to, I'm in chapter 7 of my book writing, and like, it just do it, and make, and a little bit of make it up as you go along, and learn from each piece of it. So, and then I don't know if you saw that part where she, I forget the acronym she uses, SEE, simulated, hold on, what is it? That was a good one, I thought. Here it is, on page 33. Have a pretend SEE, significant emotional event.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so like, how people, and I've often used my own analogy, my own story, as something that was obviously a big event for me, going to prison and understanding how important time is. So like, and sometimes I'll use an analogy of people who have cancer, who appreciate life, and I guess I happen to always be a Lance Armstrong fan. I liked cycling, and I thought that he was good for the sport, and I thought that he was great for cancer. Like, he was raising all this money with these stupid $1 wristbands. So what did banning him for life really do? He was at the end of his career anyway. All he did was cut off all his support for cancer. But anyway, like, it's just about having that appreciation for life. So it's kind of like coming up with this simulation of, okay, you have 1 year to live. What are you going to do with that? Or you're facing something that's really, that you need to create this urgency for, that you can't just sit and wait. What are you going to do with your life? And I think a lot of people, think about that, like, well, and I know I thought about it while my life was spiraling in a bad way, like, but I just feel like having that perspective on something, even if it is false, that it's not really a true narrative, but just getting your mind to think that way, I think is just super powerful.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I think we can all tell stories about each other or people that we know that have had those significant events in their life. I mean, as a matter of fact, somebody that I know right now told me, a similar story, that, someone in his life, got diagnosed with cancer, and, beat it, which is great, and is healthy and everything's great. But, for the longest time, they've been procrastinating on buying like their dream home. And now they said, you know what, we have the money, and, what are we waiting for? Like, life is short. We should do something that we've been wanting to do. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Mark. I mean, I think, thumbing through the book, coming to chapter 5 on page 45, that chapter is titled "Put a Date on the Calendar." And I know, in business, when we're learning about how to do business better with time management and goal setting and all that kind of stuff, you always hear that if you don't write it down, it's not real, right? So I thought that was super interesting. And, as I'm reading the book, typically I read these books on the beach. I mean, the summer's over now, so I don't know how much more I'm going to be doing that. But when I read that, I always make notes in my phone. So in my phone, I made a note to myself that if I am launching a new Be Sure group, that I need to put on the calendar a date that I want to launch it. Like, for instance, Kim is actually helping me launch a group with one of her colleagues in Hoboken. And we've kind of been talking about it for like a year already. And, COVID happened a lot, and, there was just never, I knew it was happening, but it just wasn't happening as fast as I wish it did. And I think had I marked a calendar and said, look, I'm giving myself 60 days to do it, let's do it. I think that's really interesting. When I was, sort of similarly, I guess, in terms of dreams or goals, when I was sort of learning sales, I was a car salesman, and my mentor, one of my sales trainers, said, if you want to be super successful and you have a goal of like, what's your dream car, for instance, like with my dream car is, a Corvette. Print out a picture of a Corvette, hang it in your cubicle or in your office. And then, if a customer sees it and says, "Oh, Dave, is that your car?" Yeah, that's mine. I just haven't picked it up yet. So I thought, it's corny. It's corny, but
It
it's
works.
having something in front of you that to motivate you all the time, I think is pretty cool.
Or
The quote on that page is pretty good too, by Martin Luther King. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. Which I think is exactly what I was just saying about perfectionist mentality, right? Like you don't have to, take that first step in faith in yourself, and let it all just unfold as you keep walking up the stairs.
That's kind of what growing up when I was the A student, I felt like back then that I needed to see the whole staircase. I didn't want to start something if I didn't know I could finish it the right way because of fear. It's a lot of it happens because of fear. You take that first step. Well, can I make it past the second? Who knows? But you're not going to know unless you try. That's for sure.
Right.
That's right.
So after following the happiness quiz, there's some questions which I think are pretty cool.
Let's do it.
Fill in this sentence. If it weren't too late, I would blank. Travel more, start my own business, search for my soulmate. Why do you believe it's too late? Is it true? If it weren't too late, I would.
If it weren't too late, it's such a good question, right? I mean, it's just like,
I can think of a couple things. For me, I would say, like, I've always wanted to learn another language. I would love to learn Spanish. I would love to play an instrument. I've never been musical at all. But if it weren't too late, I would do things like that.
Well, it's not too late, I guess, is the punchline, right?
Right. I guess.
So go out and do it.
I guess that's the punchline. But then then you fall on time management. Well, then okay, it's not too. So that's when you start having to. I think on another page that I flipped through. Let me. Oh yeah, on page 21, it says list your true priorities and then your time priorities. So what do you really want to be doing, and what do you spend the most time on? And
I remember my son was learning to play guitar, and he had a guitar teacher, and he said, just spend some time every day with the guitar in your hand. He's like, I've been playing for 30 years, and if I go 3 days without playing guitar, I'm rusty when I come back. So again, wow. I feel like a lot of what I've been aligning with lately is this message of everything doesn't have to be your main priority. You can have your main goal, which, for me, setting up my business or for Be Sure, but I can also spend a little time going to hit golf balls, for half an hour is not going to kill me. Maybe I can't go play 18 holes of golf because that takes 4 hours, but, go hit some golf balls or go to the gym or go for a run or whatever. So everything doesn't have to be like 100% full force all the time. And I think people who do set out on a path on their own, we have this all or nothing mentality sometimes. And you know what? Pick up a course on Babbel and right. Learn Spanish. It's like 10 minutes a day, right? And who knows? And think about if you just stack up those 10 minutes a day for the course of a year, that's 3,000 minutes of Babbel, right?
Right.
So, where can you go with 3,000 minutes of learning a language? You probably get pretty decent with Spanish at that point. So, I think that's a lot that's been speaking to me lately, just in the things I've been reading and the things I've been hearing.
I agree. And, before Amy jumped on, we were talking about, we don't watch a lot of TV, but if you really sit down and think about it, you probably watch more than you think. So what's your priority? You know, go flipping around the book. You know, chapter 3 on page 27 says adopt a sense of urgency. So yeah, just like you're saying, Mark, if you really want something bad enough, you'll adopt a sense of urgency. And you know, if you have to sacrifice things that are wasting your time for things that you really prefer, and then, you know, like you said, you do 10 minutes of babble a day, that'll turn to 15 or 20 minutes before you know it, and you start enjoying it. Or I don't know if it was this book or the last book with Atomic Habits. I just had a complete brain fart. Sorry. Totally lost my train of thought.
I'll tell you a quick story about languages. When I was like 24, 25 years old, I was working, I started working at UBS. I was working on the night desk and I was working on the Japanese trading desk. And it was like 9 p.m. to like 7 a.m. It was a brutal schedule, right? But I'm like, oh, maybe I should learn how to speak Japanese. So I was taking this class at NYU, learning how to speak Japanese. And it was fun, but nobody who spoke Japanese wanted to speak Japanese with me. So it became like frustrating. Like, you know, you go out to a restaurant, you try to BS them a little bit, you know, but they didn't want to, they just order the food and let me get your food. Like that was all it was. So it became frustrating. But I feel like, you know, with Spanish or other languages, that there's a lot of people out there. So, you know, you can maybe have someone to dialogue with. I didn't have anybody to dialogue with, so it wasn't even that fun for me. But so I was hoping to give you a minute to jog your memory there, Dave. I don't know if it worked or not.
No, it didn't work. It didn't work, but I'm still flipping through the notes I made on the book. I still have a couple things.
Okay.
The one quote from Buddha, he said, the thing is, we think we have time. I think
I love that. Yeah.
That's so, I think that, oh my God. I mean, that's like gives you goosebumps if you really think about it.
Yeah, that one, that's a scary kind of where you're like, wait, what? Yeah.
I just saw in the news, Norm Macdonald, the comedian, just passed away. Did you see that?
Really?
Yeah,
he couldn't have been much older than me, right?
61.
You're 61. Wow, much older than me.
61. It said in the article that I read that he's been battling cancer for like 10 years. He kept it very quiet, but yeah. So he passed away today, 61 years old, and you just don't know, and you know.
I mean, that honestly seems very, very young.
Yeah,
61.
Yeah.
My father passed away at 80, and I thought that was young. Like to me, that feels young. Like, you know.
It feels young to somebody who's healthy, right? Like my mom is 76 right now, and knock on wood, she's like in perfect health. You know, I mean, I joke with her. I said, Mom, you're going to be, you know, the lady that is on the news. They're announcing her birthday, that she's 114. I mean, you know, I can't believe her living another 40 years, but it's not impossible. I mean, it happens sometimes, but yeah, it's like, you think you have time. You know, not to turn our book club into a you know, morbidity, but
just, I know what is happening.
Oh, I know. It's just, but yeah, I think being real, these are things that we need to think about. And yeah, you know, living your dreams, living for what's important to you, living for your family and your friends. And, you know, I think maybe this is what I was trying to think of. I don't know if this was I think this was in this book. I'm confusing books because we're reading so many. I think in this book it said, you know, it's okay for you to surround yourself with the people that, you know, that add to your life, right? Like, you know, you don't have to, it's okay to pass on relationships that bring you down. And I think that might have been Atomic Habits, but I think that's super powerful. I mean, I think that speaks to, you know, opportunity cost, really. You know, if you've heard that expression, you know, opportunity cost, you don't want to waste any time, you know, just doing things that are unproductive in business. You don't want to waste time doing things that bring negativity into your life, you know, and we all have free will, and it's okay to choose, you know, the things that bring us up instead of bring us down. But thinking about how life is short, you know, I think we all have carte blanche to do what makes us happiest.
I agree.
Oof, we just get so caught up, right? It's so easy to get caught up in minutia and stuff that in the end really doesn't matter. It's but it's it's societal. It's we're the outliers.
You're right, man. In one of my members in the Montclair group, here on the East Coast, Amy, I'm sure you heard, Hurricane Ida came up from Louisiana, and there was some devastation here where we live. I mean, a lot of the area where we are, people got hit very hard, and a lot of flooding and lost a lot of property, and there were more than a few people that died in the storm. But one of my colleagues and close friends in Be Sure was out of town during the storm and came home to 2 feet of water in their basement, and 2 days later, one of their best friends passed away from COVID. And it was just it was one thing after another. But it's, if you needed to find a silver lining in the whole thing, the silver lining for him was the passing of my dear friend showed me that the things I lost in the storm were just things. Like, it's just stuff. It's just stuff, so that it was an eye opener for him, and he was kind enough to share that experience with the rest of us. But he's been working for 2 weeks to get his basement back in order, but he'll never have his friend back. But it's like you said, Mark, it's focusing on the little petty things in life. Just life goes on. Have the piece of cake, clean your room later, spend time with the people that matter, right?
I couldn't help but think on 9/11, obviously we all commemorate that day, and that day actually has a double meaning for me. I mean, I was in Manhattan that day. I wasn't downtown, I was in Midtown. But also it was the day that I left prison, September 11th, 2019.
Wow.
So, yeah. The situation and I walked out together.
I mean, if you reached out to him, would he guest appearance and Be Sure? I mean, that would be great.
Who was it that you walked out together with?
Mike, the Situation from Jersey Shore.
Oh.
Yeah, he served 8 months for tax evasion.
Yeah, that'll happen.
But
Did you drive home together?
Think
I mean,
about
both from here.
I couldn't help but think about how patriotic everybody was, in the days and months following that. And look where we've come in 19, in 20 years. Like, it's just, we've all forgotten those lessons, I think. And it's a shame. And that's what I think that's such a big message for me is it's amazing that we get this perspective. Like your friend said, hey, what's a few possessions? I just lost a good friend of mine, but where is that mentality? I'm not talking about him specifically, but just generally, like 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years. And I think I'm so guarded as to not lose the lessons that I learned while I was there. And it just, it's carved into my brain. We keep referencing Atomic Habits. It's the neuroplasticity of my brain it's now ingrained in there. It's that I want to keep remembering those lessons. I don't want to lose them. Not that I fear I'll go back, but I fear that I just won't be as happy as I am, or as fulfilled and satisfied as I am, Oh
yeah. I mean, 9/11 in New York was like not nowhere else, of course, but even when that happened, I was living in Florida, but you still have connections to back home. So it definitely opened your eyes. I mean, my college roommate was working on the 22nd floor of one of the towers, and we hadn't talked in, a month or more. And when the tragedy happened, when one of the planes hit the building, I tried calling him and I couldn't get him on the phone for a while, but then I finally heard from him, and he said to me, "Oh, I got laid off 2 weeks ago. I wasn't even there." I'm like, "Oh." And it's funny. I'm a big proponent of everything happens for a reason, and it's funny how things do happen sometimes. And there's a higher power that's looking out for you sometimes. But you're absolutely right, Mark. I mean, following this, the worst terror attack in the history of the country, how much did Americans band together? I mean, it was ridiculous. And now, now you see political unrest, you see, you know, the pandemic. It's like there's such a divide between some people that, you know,
Yeah.
this is like, does it really matter? You know, does whether you got your vaccine or not really matter that much? I mean, let's just all care for each other like we used to do on 9/11, right, Mark? I mean, yeah, life is just too short. So the one other quote that I liked, which we can talk about for a couple of minutes, where we got 14 minutes left, so the time is passing quickly, guys. This was a quote by Gloria Steinem, and she said, writing is the only thing that when she does it, she doesn't feel like she should be doing something else, which I thought that was so cool. Like, so what is it that you guys do that when you're doing it, you're just, you know, that's your world. You don't feel like you should be doing anything else but that.
Serious quote. It's a good one. I think I love to talk about personal development. Like I love it. Like I love delving. I have no psychology degree. I have no anything. Maybe I'm just like this, you know, maybe a modern day philosopher type of thing. But like, I just find it so intriguing, human psychology.
Yeah.
And we have all this technology in the world today, and are we really better off than that? You know, like I mean, I've met some amazing people because of LinkedIn and social media. But like, are we as a society, I guess, overall better off? But so I love talking about personal development. Obviously, when I'm on the golf course, I like that too. I feel pretty good out there.
Right. But even, you know, as a golfer myself, how many times am I on the golf course and the phone rings, and, you know, if it's work, if it's a client, if it's family, like, you know, even while you're there trying to relax, you know, you mentioned technology. It's like technology these days, you know, was created to make things more efficient. And what it's done is, in a way, sort of, you know, distracted you and slowed you down. You know, like 20 years ago, you can go play a round of golf and you wouldn't have a phone attached to your hip, you know, so you go play, and if someone needed you, well, guess what? You know, the world isn't going to fall off its axis while you're playing golf for 4 hours. And God forbid it was an emergency, you know, that's pretty rare. But no, it's psychology. I love, you know, maybe for our next book, after we finish this one, I would love to find a book about the psychology of sales. I think that's super cool. Like I was always into that too. Like, you know, when
There's a book called The Psychology of Sales.
Is there a book called that? You have it?
Yeah, I feel like that's a familiar title. Let me.
I think I think Mark Moskowitz wrote it. By the way, guys, I'm having a great hair day.
You are, as a matter of fact.
Wow, I mean.
Oh.
You got a nice sheen right there too. Like, I gotta work on my lighting, I think, in my room.
There's a Brian Tracy book called The Psychology of Selling.
Brian Tracy's great. Yeah.
I love Brian Tracy.
That's pretty dang close, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I think that's the book that I was thinking of. Should we go for that one next?
Amy, can you email me that so I don't forget it?
Anything from Brian Tracy or Jim Rohn or any of those guys are like.
Oh, I love Brian Tracy.
Yeah,
Brian Tracy the eat the frog guy? Have you heard me say that before? Do you guys ever hear that expression, eat the frog?
I've heard eat the worm.
So I think eat the frog is a Brian Tracy expression. So that means
that's the title of a book too.
I didn't hear what you said, Amy. Say it again.
That's a book too. Eat the Frog. 21 great ways to stop procrastinating, get more done, and
I just Googled it. That is him too. Yeah, I knew that was Brian Tracy. So
but that's a book. That's not just a quote. That's the title of a book he wrote.
So eat the frog means, you know, every day when you wake up and you go to work, you have your to-do list. You have all the things that you want to accomplish for that day, and there's always, you know, one thing that stands out as being the worst. You know, like you have to make the client call that you're dreading, or, you know, whatever it is that's the hardest thing for you to do that day. He's comparing that to eating a frog. If you had to eat a frog, literally eat a frog every day, then you should eat it first, because then the rest of your day is all downhill from there. So, always check off the to-do, the thing on your to-do list that's the hardest for you to accomplish. And once you do that, your day is always going to get easier. But
I like
the
it.
psychology of selling, I think, is amazing. That's going to be our next book. We're going to read that next. And, coming from the car business a long time ago, I mean, I was taught so much about psychology of selling that, I'm just so into that, Mark. I mean, I love that you mentioned psychology. What were we talking about? We were talking about the Gloria Steinem quote. So Amy, what is it that when you do it, you know that you wouldn't rather be doing anything else?
When I'm running on a really good trail.
I thought you might say running. I thought Mark might say running too. For you guys are all athletes. For me, it's when I'm eating a chicken parm. I know I wouldn't rather be doing it. when I get a nice mozzarella. When I get a nice mozzarella, that's when
That
I
thing
know
doesn't stand a chance, right, Dave?
Doesn't stand a chance. Or anything parm. Anything parm doesn't stand a chance.
How about frog parmesan?
Eat the frog parmesan. I'm
Eat
gonna
the
write
frog,
that book.
Cover it. Oh yeah, cover it in cheese and I'll eat that shit.
That's right. That's right. I'm gonna write. That's gonna be my book. I'm gonna get permission from Brian Tracy. It's gonna be eat the frog parmesan.
Everything's better with cheese.
Oh my God, everything is better with cheese, Amy. Oh
or bacon.
And it's so funny. Like I was talking. My dad has a house in the mountains in Pennsylvania, which is only about an hour or so from where we live, Amy. And we went to visit on Labor Day, and we went to the grocery store. And where we live in New Jersey, it's predominantly Italian, Polish, Greek. You go to the grocery store, there's 100 different kinds of cheese and all kinds of stuff, right? And you go to the grocery store in Pennsylvania and there's nothing. It's like it's
like Amityville.
There's lots of jerky and pig's feet and stuff like that. But
they're like, don't you make stuff for yourself? It's just ingredients.
Yeah.
Like the last line in Goodfellas when he's like, I heard about a good Italian restaurant. I got there, I got egg noodles and ketchup. Remember that?
Was that
the last line in Goodfellas when he's on witness protection and he gets sent to like some crazy town? He's like, I heard there was good Italian food about 50 miles away. When I got there, it was egg noodles and ketchup.
Wow, you just reminded me of have you seen My Blue Heaven?
Oh God, that's the best.
Well, Steve Martin, same thing. Steve Martin's in the grocery store and the manager comes. I'm going to screw up the quote, but the manager comes up to him and says, did you find everything you're looking for? And he goes, as a matter of fact, I didn't. Well, what can I help you with? I'm looking for some arugula. And the guy goes, arugula? Like, what's that? It's a vegetable.
Good movie. Good reference there. I like it.
We could do movie quotes all day.
That's the Be Sure movie quote night. That will get 1,000 people for it.
It's fun. So my buddy Jason, who I mentioned before, he owns Applegate Farms. So there's one of my members, Amy, owns an ice cream place, and it's called Applegate Farms because they've owned it. It's been in the family for close to 200 years, believe it or not. And way back when, it actually was a farm, but it's still a beautiful location, not far from here. And they used to, before COVID, they would do movie nights. And once things get, maybe by next spring or summer, we can do some Be Sure movie nights at Applegate's. That would be a lot of fun.
Sounds good to me.
What else from the book that you guys want to talk about with 5 minutes left? This was great. I'm looking at my notes.
Let's just turn to a page and see what's there.
Turn to a page. I love it.
Okay, hold on. Let's go. All right. I want to do something that's in the first few chapters. Oh, so okay, here you go. I mean, get your day off to a good start with your someday journal. I didn't even read about that.
What page?
116.
Oh, I don't think I got that far.
Neither did I. I just threw something out there. You can throw something else out if you want. it's about having your morning practice. And I think that's important for me. You know, that's something which I've always had, but like, you know, just kind of having a good routine in the morning is always a nice way for me to try to kind of just get my day going in the right direction. You know, I try to sweat a little bit with some exercise and
Yep.
do a little mental stuff and just kind of get my brain powered up for the long haul ahead. So I don't know. I just turned to a page and picked something. That's what the exercise was.
I love it.
Just turn to a page, Amy, and pick something.
I don't have my book. I have to go get it. It's over right now.
Just like I read.
And don't turn to a page then. I'll turn to a page for you. How's that?
Here's one. I
ready?
got it. Here's this comes from an unattributed Pinterest post, so I can't give credit to anyone because they don't know who said it. Life has no remote. You have to get up and change it yourself.
Oh yeah.
That's
I
super
just saw
cool.
that quote literally the other day. I just saw
Well,
it.
you must have read page 68.
Yeah. Of course. Well,
Oh,
that's
here you
good.
go. We're gonna end with this because we got 3 minutes left. But
Go ahead.
as I'm flipping, this is completely appropriate to Mark's journey, my journey. You know, Amy said she knew from a long time ago. She's always been entrepreneurial, but you know, I'm sure. Amy, once upon a time, did you work for someone that wasn't yourself? Did you ever have a job working for someone?
Yeah. Oh
What did
yeah.
you
They
do?
always
What did
want
you
to
do?
fire me, so.
What did you say? You were a fireman? What?
She came in and wanted to change the whole place over again.
Yeah,
They
I really don't do well. It's funny, like I'm a very hard worker and I'm very results oriented, but yeah, I don't like being told what to do. I think I don't do well under I don't I mean, I know my very first job was at the Gap and I loved it, right? I loved it. I loved working and having a schedule. But as I got older and anytime I've had, you know, a real job, it's never been
It's
not that I
funny.
want to come and change everything. I think it really is. I don't like being told what to do. Well, and I really don't appreciate, you know, if I want to go, like if I need a day off for something,
Yep.
if they're like, well, request it and we'll review it. I'm like,
Right.
okay, but if the answer is anything other than yes, then
Right.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
miss a day of work unauthorized.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Like I'm actually letting you know it. Whereas it's interesting because when you work at the Gap, you can just say, "Oh, I need Thursday off," and they're like, "Oh, they just don't schedule you," right? They're like, "Okay." So there is kind of like those lower jobs where they can put up, and I think it's more the scheduling thing than the being told what to like anything that happens while you're at work,
Right.
because
Yeah.
that's kind of been the bone of contention on things. I'm like, oh, I need, you know, it's my dad's birthday, so I need this day off, and they're like, oh, well, we'll review it. I'm like, okay, and as long as the answer comes back yes, we're fine. Like I don't need to give them any attitude about it at that point.
And
But if
what's
they come
interesting
back and
is
they're like, we're not going to be able.
corporate America seems to be trending more in that direction, right? Like a lot of these tech companies, you know, places like Google, you know, they hire you and they say, look, you know, you have this, you know, workload, whatever it is, you have to accomplish, you know, X, Y, and Z
Yeah.
this week or this month, and you know, just do it. And if you want to come to the office, great. If you want to work somewhere else, great. If you want to, you know, work 9 to 5, great. If you want to work 5 to 9, great. Whatever. You know, like that's. I think the world is going in that direction. I know.
Yeah, it is. It hasn't always been, but that's been an issue for jobs that I've gotten fired for that before. Where I'm like, what? I'm like, I told you I wouldn't be there. Like, I don't like. Well, we needed you on this day. It's like you absolutely didn't.
Right.
I give you plenty of advance notice that I wasn't, and for whatever reason, like it's none of their. I don't feel like it's any of their business, whether it's a family member's birthday or I have a
Right.
doctor's appointment or I'm going to volunteer at my kid's school. None of their business. I told you I'm not going to be there. I'm not like, I really have a hard time getting my head around that whole thing.
Well, we're gonna end with this because, you know, in light of you getting fired for wanting your independence, This is a quote from Paulo Coelho on page 64 that says, if you're brave enough to say goodbye, life will reward you with a new hello. So
Yes.
when Amy
Yes.
said goodbye to her employer that didn't want her there anymore, she was blessed with a new hello somewhere else and better. So
We could put The Alchemist on our reading list for a few months from now. That's Paulo Coelho.
What's
The
interesting
Alchemist.
though, they usually don't fire you for that. They usually just give you like a ration of shit.
Right.
Because I've done it more than once. I've only gotten fired once for it.
I think
Okay.
I got fired once, but just because the lady that owned the business was running it into the ground and didn't have any money to pay me anymore. It really wasn't my fault, but I think that's the only time I got fired. Everywhere else I quit. But well, guys, listen, I appreciate you as always. You know, you guys are the mainstays of the Be Sure Book Club, which I appreciate. If anyone is watching our replay on YouTube, which I'm going to post tomorrow, you know, next month, which will be whatever the second Tuesday of the month is for October. Let me look at my calendar. I'm pulling it up now, but we will be, so it'll be October 12th. So Tuesday, October 12th, 8 p.m., we will be discussing the second half of Someday Is Not a Day in the Week by Sam Horn. And today we brought up in our discussion talking about psychology and then sales. So by pure coincidence or accident, Amy discovered The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. So it sounds like that'll be our book for starting in November. So if you are, go ahead, Amy.
I think I might already have that book actually.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. So if anyone is watching this replay, we are Be Sure LLC. You can find us at www.besureusa.com. If you're looking to grow your business, if you're a professional or a salesperson or small business owner looking to grow your business through networking, we can help you with that.
Recently been fired and don't want to do that again.
If you get fired, right? If you get fired and you're looking to pivot with a career change, we can
Change
help you
your
with that as
passions.
well. Or if you were working for a company that just wasn't your dream, like Mark Moskowitz, and you do want to follow your dream, we've had a lot of dream followers that are part of our organization, so we can certainly help you with that. So thanks, Amy. Thanks, Mark. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. If you're celebrating the holiday this week, like Mark is, I hope you have a great holiday. And
Shana Tova.
Thank you. Gemar Chatima Tova.
And I hope you guys
wish
you well, stay safe and happy and healthy. We will see you next month.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Kim.
Dave, you don't celebrate
Me? No.
Rosh Hashanah? No,
I'm Catholic.
It means may you be inscribed in the book of life. Gemar Chatima Tova.
No, I mean, I'll celebrate anything that gives me,
wine and bread.
It gives you bitter herbs and wine.
Frog parm. No. What kind of parm do you serve for Yom Kippur, Mark?
Zero.
Zero parm.
Zero parm.
Zero parm. All right, guys. Let me wrap it up. I'll see you guys next. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.